you've got your website, Homegrown Learners, and I first discovered you online through Facebook. Actually, it's you're right, the beauty of just sharing things on
Okay.
Facebook. And
Okay.
Homegrown Learners spoke to my heart so much because it was coming from you as you told your story. You're a seasoned mother. Would you say more or less? Having older kids makes you a
Old
seasoned.
mother, right?
No, I didn't say old. I didn't say old. A mother with older children, meaning older
Right.
than toddlers and elementary age kids. And
Right.
and
Right.
I always jump at the chance to talk with mamas like you who've kind of been through the different seasons of education and life, and then I got more excited when I saw that you're a former public school teacher. Whoa,
Right.
I love it
Right.
because so am I. Can you share a little bit about your background and how you were led to homeschool out of that realm?
Sure. I taught for 10 years in public schools in Texas, and then when I moved to Atlanta. And after I had my daughter, I went back to teaching public school for 2 days, and then I quit.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't tell my husband. I just walked into my principal's office and I quit because I just couldn't leave a baby
Hmm.
um, in daycare. And this was shortly after September 11th. And so, everybody's emotions were, kind of on edge. So we just took a leap of faith and God provided so that I could stay home. And I started giving piano lessons out of our house and I started working in a private piano studio. And then I had my son a few years later, continued to stay at home, and even put my daughter into public school. She was in public school until about the middle of third grade. And I just kind of got tired of deprogramming her at the end of every day. And I got tired of her coming home tired and crabby. And we weren't getting the best of each other, and our relationship was suffering. And I just thought, we can do this better. And here where I live in the South, homeschooling is very popular. There's a lot of support groups. It's very popular around here. So it was Thanksgiving of her third grade year, and we just took her out, and she's graduating in May.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah,
Wow.
so that's our story.
Gosh. So how has that been? I mean, you choosing to just stop, and you took her out mid-year. Even it must have been very heavy on your heart, or in other words, a big reason to do that. What do you
Mhm.
draw that back to?
It was. In fact, we had really, I've been thinking about it since kindergarten. Something didn't feel right when I dropped her off that first day. But I just forged ahead because that's what I had done. That's what my husband had done. Public schools were good enough for us, so they would be good enough for her. Um, and I think we would have probably pulled her out sooner, but I had had to have surgery when she was in second grade. And I thought, well, I'll just recover, and then I'll just wait and we'll pull her out for third grade. And then I kind of lost my nerve again. And I'm not really sure. There were just several little, you know, defining moments. Like she could only choose books from a certain shelf in the library. She was a very good reader, but they didn't want her to go any further than a certain reading level. And she was kind of in that underserved middle of kids where she wasn't with the gifted kids that were getting accelerated. She wasn't with the kids that needed a lot of help. And she wasn't a troublemaker. So she wasn't sticking out. So she just kind of was skating along, not really accomplishing much.
Hmm.
So, and my husband was fully in support of the idea, which really helped too.
That's
Um,
great. That's always
yeah,
good, right?
yes, yeah. So we didn't have curriculum picked out or anything. We just packed up her desk and she came home and I, ordered a box from Sunlight
Mm-hmm.
that came a couple weeks later, and
Hey.
that was our first year. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I really admire Sunlight. I watched and somebody do an unboxing, and I said, "All of it's right here. They just send you a box, and you're done. Awesome." All
And she
the
was a reader and she loved, their literature-based curriculum. It was beautiful. And I wasn't raised on a lot of living books. And so I had a lot of learning to do. And so she and I were learning a lot those first couple of years. And Sunlight was a really good way for us, to get our feet wet.
Oh, that's great. That is so great. Now, share with us a little bit about your background as a former public school teacher and your experience there, because I have shared my own experience, and I'll chime in after. But did you find that there were a lot of misconceptions about the idea of homeschooling within the public school system?
Oh, definitely. And I was one of the biggest offenders there. I remember I had a good friend who was a neighbor, and she was homeschooling her kids while I was teaching public school. And I thought, well, she just, she's a control freak. She does not want to give her kids up. She's going to need to let go of them at some point. And, she should just cut the apron strings now. And I think
Wow. Yeah.
back on that, and that was just wrong on so many, it was A, judgmental, and B, I can't imagine cutting apron strings on our kids when they're so little now.
Yeah.
So I do think that there was a misconception that maybe homeschoolers were just insecure, or they wanted to stay really close to their kids, or maybe they thought they were too good for the public schools.
I hear you. I
So,
feel you,
yeah,
Mary.
yeah,
I remember thinking those things too. And thank you for saying that out loud and admitting it, because if we can't learn from our own where we've been and where we are now, and admit that, hey, I was wrong
right, right.
about just my own thoughts back then. Thank you. That really helps, because I remember being in that place too, but I don't remember how I got there. Like, how do you judge something that you've never tried? That you really don't know. And I don't know if that was a result of just what we thought education was. What do you think?
Uh-huh. I think maybe it's it was maybe a threat to me as a public school teacher, because if people start teaching their kids at home, they're not going to need teachers anymore. And I think sometimes we criticize what we don't understand. And I just didn't understand what homeschooling was about. Like I've said, I didn't even know what a living book was. So even though I was a teacher, I don't think I really understood the type of education that I'm now giving my children.
And what does that look like for you
So,
now? What has changed so much?
well, probably we don't listen to what other people tell us. We don't take anybody's word for it. And now that my kids are older, we talk a lot about how do you get your information? Who's your authority? Who are you trusting? Are you, are you basing everything on the truth of God's word, or are you basing your opinions on feelings? So, yeah, and when they were little, I would just follow them. I was following their interests. It wasn't like, okay, you're in second grade, so we're going to do this in this little box. I learned that it was okay to step out and just do all kinds of different things and customize for them. And I miss those days.
Oh.
Yeah, it gets a lot more serious when they get bigger.
Oh. No, it's true, right? I mean, and that's why we chose to bring our daughter home at fourth grade, because I knew, and I was sensing, because I used to teach middle school. Okay, so I saw that age group, and
Right.
I honestly, I was kind of scared, because I wanted to have that influence over my kids first before the school did. And I realized,
Right.
wow, we have a choice. We have a choice. Who
Yes.
says that this has to be the way it is?
Right.
We have that choice. And it was freeing. It was very
Hmm.
freeing for us, and I'm sensing that you experienced the
Hmm.
similar kind of freedom. Wow.
Yeah, definitely. And once we made that choice, it made it easier to make other choices. Like my husband changed his job situation so he could work at home. We recently just gave up our traditional health insurance, which felt in a way, like we were abandoning another well-worn system. So I think it's really not even about schooling anymore. It's just about this whole approach that we have towards life. That we're just not little dutiful soldiers anymore.
Sure, sure. And in and both of us coming from the public school system, having been trained up in that system. I mean, and I tell people now, not that there's anything inherently evil about the system. Like we're not saying no, 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 that's wrong and this is right. It's it's more of a. It wasn't created to produce whole people.
Right.
I mean, it was created during the Industrial Revolution to create factory workers. And when we don't understand history, I think that that's where parents feel like they have to fall in line. And at Practical Family, we're all about, giving practical solutions to help to grow, to help parents to understand how to grow their kids. And that's why I love your website so much, Homegrown
Mm.
Learners, that's what it's about.
Right. Right. And I see now that we're reaching the end of the line with my first one, and I can look back. I can just see all the beautiful opportunities that we had with her that we would not have otherwise had. And that closeness that we have with our kids that I think we would have had to fight much, much harder for if they were in school all day, every day.
Right, right.
It's hard enough to fight for their hearts as it is without adding another layer of influence on top of it, I think.
Right. Mary, what would you suggest? What would you say to a young mother or a mother of young kids getting into this homeschooling lifestyle? And maybe she's jaded by the schools, or maybe they just want a different lifestyle. Maybe, whatever the reasons are, how would you disciple her in making that transition? What's one of the best pieces of advice you can give?
I think, and it's something that I had, was just a good friend who was a little further along to walk me through things step by step. And I remember her name is Denise, and she and I are still very good friends. And she had told me to never let my kids lose their wonder. She said, no matter how old they get, she said, just don't let them lose the wonder. And so when I would, just get a little bit, stressed out that we weren't getting a particular concept, or, maybe a adolescent attitude was getting to me, she would point me back always to what was most important about homeschooling. And she had these beautiful children who are now adults that I could look to and say, okay, it's going to be all right, you know? So I would think having a mentor like that, and just to, not take yourself too seriously. When they're little, just play and read books, you
Hmm.
know, just enjoy them because they can learn all the stuff that they're going to need to know, when they're like fourth grade and up. They can learn all that stuff kind of fast. But when they're little, you just need to enjoy them and form that relationship with them, I think.
Oh, that's so
So,
great. That's so great, Mary. Thank you for that. Ooh, I'm going to hold on to that for myself. Put that in a plaque above my sink right
I
now.
know. I see we were out to lunch today and I saw a little one and my kids and I were like, oh, she's so cute. Oh, she's so cute. And I almost started to cry because I
Oh,
thought I have such good memories of what I did with my kids. And I'm so thankful, that we made the decision to keep them at home.
yeah.
So,
Oh, love it. Love it. So, how did you find CC then? You are also Classical Conversations family, aren't you?
yeah. Yes, we were in a co-op here locally, and I had one of my friends. her little boy was over for dinner one night and he was singing all of the presidents. And I was so impressed that this little kid, and he was a funny little kid. I mean, he was a turkey. You didn't think that he was really going to be like this academic kind of kid. And he just started singing all the presidents. And I remember talking to his mom, and she was telling me about Cece. And so we went to the park the next week, and she brought her timeline cards and all this other, she brought her foundations guide. And I thought, this looks really good. I especially could see my youngest one at the time, he really liked to collect facts. And so I thought this would be really great for him. So we joined that next year.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Very
And
cool.
I think that was probably, like maybe 5 or 6 years ago.
Okay, yeah. So you're not necessarily a what they call like a lifetime CC member, because there are a lot of
No.
families who started from, I say birth, from the
Yeah.
beginning. But you can
No,
jump into it very easily, basically, right?
I think so. My daughter jumped in at Challenge A, so she was like
Oh,
seventh grade.
nice.
And my son jumped in when he was third grade. And then my daughter jumped out at 10th. She wanted to do a couple of different things,
Mm-hmm.
and CC wasn't such a good fit for her anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So she's doing something different. Now my son is still continuing. He'll be in high school next year, and he's still doing CC.
Cool. See, and that's
Yeah,
that's good to know too, that that's okay. It's yeah.
right. Yeah. Why would I want to be a slave to that system
Right.
when I had stopped being a slave to another system?
Sure.
If it's not working for you, you can change.
Sure, and that's an important concept too. That's what I hear a lot of uh, prospective homeschool parents think, that if I don't make the right decision in the first year of homeschooling, then it's going to affect the rest of their lives or the rest of their academia,
Oh,
and it's not necessarily true. And I'm glad to hear that from another
no.
family.
Yeah. I mean, we're always changing in our own lives too.
Yeah.
I tried to keep a few things consistent, like math has always been a real consistent for us, and our reading has been a very consistent thing, but the other things have kind of fluctuated
Mm.
along the way.
Good to know. Good to know. Now, before we end the conversation, Mary, gosh, I could talk to you all day. I have so many questions now. But we'll have to keep this interview short and bring you back on for another episode. But I do want to cover your music program, because you're a former music teacher and you created Squilt. Tell us what that stands for and where that came from, please.
Okay. Yeah, it's super quiet, uninterrupted listening time. And when I was teaching in the public schools, I had read about this idea in one of our music teacher magazines. And so I always used it with my kids in public school, and it was our best time during our class. They would lay down on the floor, close their eyes, and they would just listen super quiet to a beautiful piece of music. And it got to be where at one school that I was at, we would have squilt time every Friday morning on the announcements. And sixth graders would vie to be the squilt announcers for the week. Um, so then when I started my blog, I was putting out squilt lessons, complimentary, on the blog. And my husband encouraged me. He said, this could really be a full curriculum. Why don't you, try and write a volume? So I had been to a blogging conference and I had gotten real energized and came home. And within the next month, we put out the volume one, the Baroque era. And it's just kind of, you know, snowballed from there to where we had products, and now we have a live option where I teach kids 2 different times a month. They can come in and get live lessons from me along with some other stuff. But it's super fun. It's a good time.
It looks fun. It looks amazing. I mean, I've been stalking it for months now. And then I said, I need to reach out to her and ask about it. But so this is so exciting. We'll definitely, if you're listening this week, you can go to Squilt, and we'll have the links there in the show notes and the links to Mary's blog, homegrownlearners.com. But it's a music program that is so educational And it's appreciation, really. That's what I love about it so much. So, in closing, what have you found that that parents are getting out of it the most as they go through it?
Well, they're getting out of it an appreciation for music for themselves because they're listening with their children. And I like to, you don't have to have any knowledge to teach this. It's really just open and go. So they're finding that their families are starting to appreciate music. And also they're finding that their kids' habit of attention is increasing. Because sometimes when you just have to sit quietly and listen to something for 2 minutes, that's a chore. And it's a chore for an adult. Now, this week in our live lessons, we're doing Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, the first movement, and that's 7 minutes long. So, you get kindergartners and first graders that have to just listen for that long. And they're listening for specific things in there, but that's just a really good life skill for them to have. Forget the music. It's just a good listening skill to have.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yay for longer attention spans, creating them one song at a time.
Yes, seriously, we
Love
all need
it.
help with it.
We do. We do. That is so good, Mary. Oh, I'm so glad to have met you today over video, and being able to just connect with another, not only former teacher, but a teacher who found being their children's teacher so fulfilling. That's the love and the joy that I'm hoping that comes across to families, even whether you choose homeschooling or not, that you get to at least hear the testimonies of other families who've gone through it, who risked certain things, who broke out of systems. I love that your testimony leans in that direction, Mary. And I really encourage you families, please go check out Mary's website, homegrownlearners.com, and also her Squilt music program. And we'll have the links up for you. Any closing thoughts for our families today, Mary?
Well, I'm thinking of something that I shared actually today on, or maybe it was yesterday, on my Instagram, and it was, homeschooling. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And some miles are going to be easier than other. And, some miles you are going to want to quit, but you're going to feel wonderful once you get to that finish line. So, that's a huge metaphor right there, but I think it's so true, So just hang in there, even when you feel like quitting. You can always take a break for a couple months, and then pick back up. I don't think your kids are going to be any worse for it.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much, Mary, for
You're
being with
welcome.
us. This
Thank
has
you.
been a pleasure. Thanks for watching the Practical Family Podcast. Can you do me a quick favor before you leave? Hit the like button so that more videos like this pop up in your feed. If you want to keep following Practical Family for more tips and tricks and encouragement for moms just like you, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and the little bell notification next to it so that you're notified when new content comes out. Visit practicalfamily.org for more resources on how you can breathe easier as you embrace motherhood. This has been Jennifer Bryant. Thank you for visiting, and come visit us again soon.